Hello, my name is Leander and I am in grade 6. I am presenting Fighting G-LOC, a study of G-forces on fighter pilots. I chose this topic because I would like to be a fighter pilot when I am older. I wanted to research what it would be like to be a pilot and their training, and while I was looking, I saw that there are actually a lot of problems that fighter pilots have to overcome. If you have watched the movie Top Gun Maverick, you will see that they have to overcome high G-forces to complete the mission, and you can see that some of them black out during training. I thought it would be interesting to come up with some new ideas on how to prevent the negative effects of G-forces on fighter pilots. G-forces are basically gravitational forces. We always have one G pushing on us, and that's what keeps us planted to the ground. 1 G is 1 time the force of gravity, so 9 Gs is 9 times the force of gravity. If you weigh 200 pounds at 1 G, you would weigh 1,800 pounds at 9 Gs. G-forces are caused by rapid acceleration and tight turns. The faster you accelerate and the tighter the turn, the more G's you will feel. I will now talk about the effects of G-forces. G-LOC happens when the gravitational forces are so strong that they push most of your blood down to your feet and away from your brain. Your brain is very sensitive to lack of blood flow, so you get tunnel vision. After 4 to 6 seconds of hypoxia, you lose consciousness. Your heart will pump your blood with more force and speed to try to increase the flow to your brain, but that reflex takes 6 to 9 seconds to start. By that time, you are already unconscious. G-LOC also depends on the length of time you are under those sustained G-forces. The total time people are unconscious is about 15 seconds. During that period of time, the pilot is unconscious and not able to control the aircraft, and it won't take long for them to crash unless you're fast to recover. The mishap rate related to G-LOC in USAF F-16 pilots for 1993 to 2009 is 1.32 per 100,000 flying hours. The stages of G-LOC are loss of color, tunnel vision, you can't see anything but you're still conscious, and then unconsciousness. Here I have two graphs that show time on the x-axis and G-force on the y-axis. You can see the zone where pilots are susceptible to G-LOC at 7 to 9 Gs. A pilot that pulls 10 Gs for over 20 seconds may die from this exposure. The graphs show that pilots who are trained have better resistance to G-forces than an untrained crew. There is medical research being done on fighter pilots with early onset neck pain and neck wear and tear because it is so common in them. Studies where they have done MRIs on pilots have shown their neck pains are due to bulging discs in their necks. This study shows that pilots had more wear and tear compared to non-pilots of the same age. Another study I found showed pilots who experienced higher G-forces had more neck degenerative changes. I'm not going to focus on aircraft stability and strength because I am studying the pilot and not the plane. Interview with Nathan Cunningham. He is a former bobsled racer who went to the 2006 Olympics in Italy, and he is also my hockey coach. Bobsled tracks have a maximum of 5 Gs, which are felt over 3 seconds on each corner during the ride down the track. When the G-forces hit you, it takes your breath away because it squeezes you into the bottom of the bobsled. The Gs aren't constant, they are more of a fluctuating G. Even when the Gs aren't that high, it still makes you fatigued and your body achy. You sometimes hit instantaneous Gs that are really high, like 15 or 19, but they go by so fast you don't even realize you're hitting that many Gs. The next interview is with Hassan Naqvi. He is a Royal Canadian Air Force Reserves pilot. In the RCAF, he flew an F-16, Tudor, T-Bind, Harvard, Hawk, and Hornet. And in the U.S. Navy, he flew a T-38, T-2, F-16, and a Jaguar. Hassan says to fight the impact of G-forces, he flexes his muscles like when performing a heavy squat, flexing his legs, abdomen, and butt muscles. Gs are uncomfortable, but usually he doesn't focus on them. He's focused on his flight path and instruments and avoiding the enemy. You have to be postured correctly before you pull Gs in order to look over your shoulder, behind you, and upwards. When pulling an 8 to 10 G maneuver, you usually experience max Gs briefly before the G-forces slowly bleed down as the plane loses speed over 10 to 15 seconds. The Canadian snowbirds fly planes that can't use G-suits even though they are constantly pulling high Gs. If you lose consciousness in an F-16, it will self-recover and avoid crashing into the ground until the pilot takes back control. I hypothesize that there are new or improved ways to reduce the effect of G-forces on pilots. I hypothesize that these may include different helmet designs and ways to decrease gravity within the cockpit. Some pilots use the hook or grunt maneuver. This is where you breathe in and begin to say the word hook. You should feel it in your glottis and the opening between your vocal cords at the back of your throat. About 3/4 of the way through the word, before hitting the K sound, close your glottis and hold for 2.5 to 3 seconds. The anti-G straining maneuver is a combination of breathing maneuvers and contraction of large muscles. It was developed in World War II by fighter pilots and increases the blood pressure as it comes out of the heart and into the aorta and to the rest of the body. Some factors that can decrease lung capacity and breathing muscle strength are smoking, drugs, infection of the lungs, and lung diseases. Pilots should never smoke or vape. Pilots can do specific breathing exercises and practice the ones we talked about to make them stronger and more effective at preventing the effects of G-forces. Muscle contractions are part of AGSM. If your muscles are bigger and stronger, especially the large muscles like glutes, quads, and calves, you can push more blood from your legs and into your core to allow it to get to your brain more effectively. Pilots could do more muscle building exercises, especially for their legs. The more carbohydrates your body has before doing this exercise, the more effective it will be. Pilots could change their diet on a day before flying, like athletes do. If you could get more oxygen in your blood, then more oxygen will reach your brain. Pilots could try some sessions of hyperbaric oxygen therapy before flying to try to saturate their blood with oxygen. G-suits look like pants with pockets that fill with air automatically when you pull Gs. There are some G-suits which use the runoff air from the aircraft to inflate your suit bladder. When the pants are inflated, they push the blood out of your legs, preventing it from pooling there and increasing the blood able to reach your heart. This increases your G tolerance. The current G suits give you 2.5 to 3 Gs more resistance and a 50% reduction in G-related muscle fatigue. One innovative idea I have is, could you have a full body G suit that would be more efficient at getting more blood to your brain? But that likely wouldn't work because you need blood flow to your upper body to be able to use your arms and hands. What if it was a lighter amount of pressure on your arms, as every bit of blood to your brain helps? You could have something like an arm compression sleeve that athletes wear to apply a small amount of pressure so you can still use your arms, but you are increasing the blood going to your brain. Fighter pilot helmets are heavy because they need a lot of equipment, which I have listed here. The modern helmet weighs around 4 to 5 pounds. The average weight of a human head is about 10 or 11 pounds, so that plus the helmet equals about 150 pounds or more sitting on your neck at 9 Gs. Engineers have been trying to design new helmets. These weigh around 2.2 pounds, so much better than 5 pounds, but this is still very heavy at 9 Gs. The new helmets are made of carbon fiber with a 3D printed honeycomb design on the inside for impact resistance, and they have ventilation because it gets really hot in the planes. They have added a jaw light on the new helmet so you clench your jaw and the light turns on and off. A lot of pilots love noise canceling because in the plane it gets really loud and noisy. The power supply on the new helmets can attach to your hips so you have even less weight on your neck. Maybe you could have cameras looking backwards so you don't have to turn your head to look behind you. That would decrease the stresses on your spine. Do we even need an entire helmet? Maybe we could just have a visor attached to a headband. If we did that, it would have good ventilation and it wouldn't be very heavy. You have to have padding in it because if you hit your head, you could be injured, so that idea may not work. Maybe you could have graphene around your head with a little bit of foam padding for cushioning, so it would be like a helmet, but so much lighter. Theoretically, shorter people have a higher G tolerance because they have a shorter gap between their brain and their heart. In an F-16, the seats are reclined 30 degrees, shortening the distance between your heart and your brain, making it so you have a higher G tolerance. You can't change someone's height, but you can change the angle of their seat. If you recline the seat, it decreases the vertical distance between the head and the heart. Maybe you could recline the seat even more than 30 degrees, but then how would the pilot be able to see? Maybe you could have cameras looking backwards and around you so you don't have to turn your head to look around you. Nobody has tried to reduce the gravity within an aircraft, so there's not much information on this. My idea is the following. One place you experience 0 Gs other than in space is underwater. Could you fill the cockpit with water so that you can experience 0 Gs when stationary? What would happen if you pull 4 Gs? I wonder how many Gs you would actually feel. Gravity is something by Newton's laws of physics you just can't change. A negative with having a pilot in the plane is that they can only sustain so many Gs. If you have AI in the plane, then you can pull as many Gs as the plane can handle, which would be more than the pilot. We probably don't have complete AI planes yet because they are expensive and are nowhere near sophisticated enough to assume all duties involved in flying an aircraft. So if we have a pilot in the plane controlling and steering it, and AI focusing on some things the pilot is not focusing on. Here's my conclusion in relation to my hypothesis. Future spin-offs. Next year, some things I want to do or would do are, I could try testing some of the innovations I've come up with, like filling the cockpit up with water idea, which is basically filling a water bottle up with water, then getting a neutrally buoyant object and putting it in the bottle, tying a string to the bottle, and like the centrifuge does, spinning it around in circles to see if it would feel G-forces. Find a way to make something kind of like graphene, then use ski goggles or something for the visor, and try to make the helmet I was thinking about. Areas for improvement. I could do some more experiments to test some of my ideas to see if they work. I could interview a designer or engineer about helmets or G-suits. Thank you for viewing my presentation.